The world's a big, crazy place with all these gigantic instruments of destruction, huge problems, the giant environmental and other challenges that we face. Traditionally, sustainability has meant just not participating in that system. It's meant sacrifice. It's meant a burlap green, where instead of buying new clothes, you wear burlap or a barrel, and you live on a farm and do everything with manual labor. And that's great if you can do that, but no one really wants to. No one really has. Very few people, given a choice, have practiced that lifestyle. So I think we need to build the bright green future that we want, where sustainability is the second reason why someone buys something. The main reason why someone buys or makes something is because it's awesome. And then it also happens to be the bright green alternative. So I've been experimenting with this for a while. And for me, it started with a motorcycle. Globally, about 13% of our carbon emissions are from transportation. I wanted to go faster than I could on my bicycle. I didn't want to have a motorcycle polluting, so I decided I'd build an electric motorcycle. So this was like 100 hours of very little sleep and, just kind of figuring things out as I went. For a glorious 5 minutes, it worked. And then because I didn't put in enough homework beforehand, or just because this happens with projects, the motor melted, literally melted. Like the wheels turning 1 minute and then it freezes. And I'm like, okay, well, that was that project. It was ruined. And far from being this horrible thing, it was a wonderful experience. It was well worth it because I'd become addicted to making. So kind of brashly, fast forward 6 months, and I built this erector set looking contraption. I still don't know how to weld at this time. I have a degree from a fancy school in business, which is good for very, very little in the real world other than sitting at a desk. So quit my day job, maxed out my credit cards, more or less ran out of money, and built this contraption, which fast forward another 50 iterations in the year or two of learning how to actually weld, and I'd created a fleet of these bicycle taxis that were great. It was fun. It let me and my friends have a sustainable lifestyle. We drove bikes around to pay our bills. It was kind of like a dream. It was great for a while. It was a bright green job for us individually, but it wasn't really as scalable as I wanted it to be. So around that time, a friend had created this. This is a biochar kiln. It sits atop a 55-gallon drum and lets farmers, instead of burning their crop waste in open field fires, it lets them instead make biochar, which is charcoal that you put in your soil to reduce your need for chemical fertilizers. So this was great. We made a couple in the US. They cost about $200 US each to make, required a $200,000 fancy machine. And that was all well and good to make a couple of them to prove the concept, but that wasn't really scalable. We couldn't sell a $200 kiln to farmers who make $250 a year. So we decided we'd build a factory out of a standard shipping container in the middle of Kenya, where we were deploying these. And it not only didn't work, but actually physically blew up several times over. This is the generator we were using catching on fire, and didn't quite blow up. They have a vent. The gas just burnt till the generator was a pile of ashes. But that, a dozen other mishaps, it just fundamentally was not working until it did. We iterated, we improved, and we had an off-grid factory in essentially the middle of nowhere that was doing 100-mile manufacturing. Instead of a 100-mile diet, we were able to do manufacturing, sourcing everything that we needed to make our kilns within a 10-mile, usually 100-mile at worst, radius from where our factory was located. We built a second factory. We were able to iterate and come up with a design that cost a 20th as much, a $10 kiln that looked pretty good and was actually something that we could sell to farmers. So this was all well and good. I enjoyed it. We helped some people produce several thousand kilns that way, but it wasn't as scalable as we really wanted to be. It wasn't having the global impact that we hoped to have in agriculture. So again, I started tinkering, had a very bare bones kit that I created to monitor what was going on with crops, and then from that, turn on lights or supplemental watering systems. I put this up for sale with very little homework beyond building it and getting it working. And fortunately, intelligent people purchased it as a kit. I learned a lot more from them than they did from me. Fast forward, again, 20 iterations and a newer version. This was Wi-Fi connected. It kind of let me play Farmville in real life. I could see what my crops were doing and then share that with my friends. And with a lot of help from some of those friends, we're now focused on something called Soil IQ. This is a Wi-Fi connected, solar-powered soil sensor that we'll be able to sell for under $100 to farmers and gardeners around the world. For the first time ever, create a digital soil map globally and understand what's actually going on with our crops. Because we've got a lot of iteration and improvement that we need to do to figure out how to actually optimally grow food with less carbon footprint and with less work. So these have been some of the believe it or not, these have been some of my more successful experiments. I haven't shared the real disasters, like the time that we tried to live off of dumpster diving all of our food, or the time that I tried to use a composting toilet as my only toilet. Those were not as pretty. The point is that these were experiments that were so enjoyable that I would keep doing them. And it's not the end result that matters. It's that we're in a process where we're having so much fun by experimenting that we'll continue. So this is how we're polluting worldwide. There are two fundamental ways to look at this. That's all. You have to choose one. This is either a source for a real great big reason to be depressed, or these are opportunities. These are stale industries that have great opportunities for us to innovate, to build the bright green world that we want. So ask yourself, what's your bright green world look like? What doesn't exist today that should? Don't ask if you can build it right now. Don't ask if it's feasible. Don't ask if it's reasonable. And just ask if it's fun. Ask if it's something that you'd be happy failing at, and then get to work. Let's build the bright green world that we all deserve.